what would you like to do, revenue first? I mean, putting cuts or putting stuff in like revenue sources?
What, the revenue sources being put in this budget isn't going to,
There's a couple that we may want to add, like, the amusement tax, something like that, so, if we're gonna put that in, we should discuss it.
then let's.
Go ahead.
Doing something with the golf course would be a significant.
That's not gonna happen right now, though, we could,
Yeah, we had that list that Liz did a great
Yeah,
job.
Liz,
those we need to act on right after, as soon as we can. Kathy, my suggestion would be, on those items, we'll make resolutions, ordering studies, having Paul study, come back to us as quick as possible. We can implement them during the year. We're not gonna be able to find a lease guy, or a police person right now. There's no way in the world. But there's taxes we can look at. Do we wanna raise any fees? Above and beyond what the mayor wants. Do we wanna put the amusement tax back, the business tax back? And then any cuts you want to do, if there are any, they need to be done here,
Well, I would like to freeze that pay. That's a cut,
You mean for all non-bargaining?
yes.
What? I'm sorry.
She
The
wants
pay
it-
freeze for management and non-bargaining would be a cut, would equate to a cut.
How can we, and Mel's saying no already, but can we just start our list on what issues are gonna be,
Talked about today.
yeah, or or if it's the issues that we're going to have to really decide on within the next 2-3 days or next 2 meetings.
You want Rose to do that? You can sit,
I don't necessarily want to cut
what?
a free salary on management.
You don't?
And where are you gonna find it?
Well, that's what we have to talk about.
Yeah.
I don't know, but the people who are working very hard. And I do not know where we're going to get the money, but I feel that the people in management are working very diligently, and they're working to the best. I've talked to the people, I've met with them, I've sat down with them, and I believe they are hardworking citizens just like the union, and I am not ready to cut their wage.
Okay. Why don't you talk? Go ahead.
Okay. There could be no doubt that there are a lot of hard workers. We do not have performance reviews to see how hard people, not how hard they are working, but what type of a raise they deserve. The administration said that there were going to be performance reviews. The early intervention report from 2005 stresses that management needs to take the lead. $141,000 is not a lot of money, but it's a start. It is a signal that council is serious about addressing an $11 million deficit. If you look back at the cost of living over the last 10 years, it has not been 3%. People in City Hall have gotten a 3% increase every single year, whether you're talking about management or bargaining. Some people in management have new job titles and received an increase when they started those new job titles. To cast a wage freeze for management as implying that people are not doing their jobs is not what I intended. If you're, not you just personally, but anybody who supports the wage increase better be prepared to have $141,000 on the table today. And I'm still voting against it.
You want to say something? Go ahead.
Yes. I don't agree with freezing wages neither, because these people have worked all year looking forward to this raise. And now, if next year, if that's what we want to do, give them a year's notice so they'll know that it's coming. You know, I don't think that's right for our union to be able to get raises and then our non-unions not. So I don't support freezing the wages.
Well,
I'm not for freezing them if we find it in this budget how we can offset it.
I think we,
That's why there's enough in this budget, we should be able to cut to offset that, so.
Can I ask Kaz after you talk?
no, go ahead, you can.
Okay.
The other night, we had a fire chief who sat here and said that he might retire if he doesn't get a raise. I want to present the possibility that some people who are close to retirement age might decide to retire because they know that they are not going to get a wage increase for 2019. If you have retirees, the city has the option to do two things. One is to bring in new managers at a lower cost. Second, to bring in a more diverse workforce at the top, at the management level. So it looks like, I'm sad to say that the very first, we have very little control over this budget. The one thing we have control over are the salary increases. And I'm very sorry to see my colleagues not even having, I'm going to say the courage to be able to do that. So I ask again, where is the $141,000 coming from?
Nobody likes being the Grinch. But I can tell you in the private sector, the real private sector, not the world of utilities or government, it's not unusual to go 8 years without a raise increase. My own wife, a school teacher, went 3 years without a raise. The district was that bad. So between my wife and I and her, we went 3 years without a raise. Of course, as controller, I went many years without a raise. That's just the way it is. We have widows out there on city pension and other widows on other pensions who don't get COLAs, who don't get the kind of insurance we have, who don't get the kind of pension we have. And for somebody to come up here like I'll say it, the fire chief the other day, you know, we give you, some people here have a car. Members of council don't have a car. Paul, you don't have a car. Okay, I mean, those are benefits that the real world don't always have. And all we're saying is to make an impression, to send a message to the bargaining unions that, hey, you know what, we're willing to take a cut also. Now you got nothing. All we're going to do is we're going to be on what I call a fool's errand. And many times we created this disparity between management and the working people. We did. Years ago when we negotiated, we are going to play this game about keeping management ahead of the workers forever and ever. I mean, there's a couple examples. I don't want to go into them, but I will after the meeting, of people that created their own problem. We have people that came in off the street here out of college, have had 2 pay raises. They've already had 2. People out there, the people I talked to the other day, at least we're doing something, they thought. Well, now we're not. We're going backwards. And like, my council member said, we were getting everybody a cost of living even when it was not that high. And the entry-level positions here are unbelievable. And I know Mel would disagree with me, but in most places, just like a policeman, you start out at the bottom and you work your way up. You may not like the bottom entry level, but people come in off the street here, they get the same raise as somebody else, the same pay. And I say it again, the benefits here are second to none. So if you're not satisfied, I'm sure we can go over to Gannon, Merciers, or we can send out some apps out there, and we'll get some qualified people real quick. I'm sticking with the pay. I mean, I led by example. I took my cut, and I think we need to do something. Because if all we're going to do is come here every year, year after year after year, and just say business as usual, they're going to laugh at us out there, and they have every right to.
And when we get that early intervention report, which will be probably mid-year or possibly in September, If we can't vote for a pay freeze now, how are we ever going to vote on what the recommendations are in the early intervention report that the state is going to pick up the bulk of the cost for? And think about the hard choices that are going to be offered in that early intervention report. They're going to be hard, because this isn't just an $11 million deficit. This is a structural deficit. I suggest that you might want to look at, thank heavens the administration has done the 5-year budget, the 5-year projections. Paul, what is the 5-year projection if we stay on this course? Isn't it 22 million?
Give or take, yeah. 5 years.
But 5 years out, we are going to have a $22 million deficit. 22 million. We have a budget right now where we are asking city residents, we aren't raising property taxes, but we're saying if you earn a living in the city, you're going to be paying a higher earned income tax. You're going to be paying more on your pay that you take home. We're saying you're going to pay more for garbage, you're going to pay more for water, you're going to pay more for sewer. So just think about that. We are disincentivizing people to live in the city. We have so much good stuff going on. We're going to say to people who are on the poor end of the scale, you're going to have less money in your take-home check. And we are saying to high-end workers who might be coming here to work at Erie Insurance or might want to move into the city as housing is being developed, you move into the city and you're going to pay more on your income. Why not just live across the line in Mill Creek on Pittsburgh, across the line at Pittsburgh Avenue or wherever all the boundaries are? So,
I met a young couple the other day. I was at breakfast with some of my friends, and a young person come up to me with his wife, and he goes, you just maybe sealed your fate with my vote. He said, I rent a house right now. Why would I want to live in the city? He said, you just told me I'm going to pay more on my income tax, and I'm probably going to pay double on my house what I would on a similar house over the line, which is only a block away from where I was. These are, you got to start thinking about 22 million. And Paul, your numbers bear it out. Our assessed value is flat. Flat. That means we're not moving either direction, although I think we're probably sinking more until we do some changes with, getting people to move back in here. But when the vast majority of people even that work here don't have faith in us, where are we going to get this money to pay this? Where are we going to get it? On the backs of retirees, widows, people that are less fortunate in the income level? 27,000, I believe, is the average. Where are we going to get that? I want everybody to tell me out there, all these people we hire and all the people out there, I had my economics professor call me last night. I haven't heard from him in about 3 years. He said he wouldn't want this job for $1 million, and he's right. But if we don't do something, if we don't start doing something, then doing the same things the same old way are just going to get us in the same hole we've been in. We have to send a message to everybody here, everybody from the top down, that these are serious times. We can't keep taxing people because they're moving. They're not moving to Mill Creek for the weather. They're not moving to Summit for the weather. So if you don't...
And there again, I think what we wanted to start with today, and
This is only 1 year. Yeah.
This is one thing that, once again, if we can't find it somewhere else in the budget, then...
I'll give you an example, Jim. The mayor got on TV and he said he can't find a heart to charge business people $100. That's $2 a week. And I'm not picking on any business, but a lot of these places that do business in here, you can afford $2 a week. And we could have looked at that, but then at the same time, we're okay, and it's justified, okay, Paul? It's justified, but we're okay telling a widow we're going to charge her $60, $80 more a year for fees, okay? You see the irony in that thing? We oh my God, people come down and storm it. We had the director from the convention center. Oh, you're going to throw everybody out? Maybe we should throw them out. If they can't make money, okay, why do our people have to subsidize things? How do you go up to the people on fixed income and say, well, we won't charge this person 100 because they whined to the mayor loud enough, but then we're gonna charge you because, you know what, you don't have a lobby. We gotta do something. I really don't care anymore. I'm gonna vote the way I feel comfortable, and I'm gonna take a cut, and I think we should. And I think everybody here has to understand it's a 1 year to see what it looks like. You know, and if you want to raise, then CPI sounds like the way to go. But there are some years when you're right, okay? Nobody ever monitored that.
We all should vote how we feel comfortable. I mean, you.
I agree with you, but I'm just saying.
I mean, I understand everything you're saying, but at the end of the day, I have my reasons.
Well, and I admire you for it,
And I'm
Sonia.
gonna stick to my reasoning. I don't think that's the right way to go.
We have very little control of this whole budget, that's a problem. We have very few items we can really do anything with.
And I think we need to move
I-
on that. and
Let's-
all
you
the
wanna take a
general-
vote on that, or you
All
want-
the general discussion is fine. Let's get down to the meat.
Well, you want to vote? Let's vote.
No, I wanna, actually, what I would like to do is that's a hot topic. Let's go through this
Okay.
and see what our hot topics are and see if there's monies
You want Rose to
there
do that?
to implement the increase
Hey, Rose.
or if there isn't.
Can you keep a list?
Why couldn't we
List of what?
do the amusement tax and put that back into the
Wage
budget?
freeze, that's a hot item that we want to talk about.
Okay.
Because $141,000 is the start. Does anybody have any idea of how much we would like to cut this budget? Is there a number in your head about how much we need to cut? We put the amusement tax increase has to be on top of other ways to cut or generate revenue. $141,000, $120,000 or whatever it is for the amusement tax. We need to get to, I don't know what figure, but we need to get to a figure that we want this deficit reduced by. You don't trade amusement tax increase for the pay freeze. You know, get out calculators, get out your pencils, get out Excel, and start adding stuff up. Does anybody have a number that you would like to have this budget reduced by? So that the earned income tax increase is not as onerous as proposed, and possibly some of those other increases are not as onerous as proposed. Does anybody have a, Kaz, do you know? I mean, have you generally approached a budget in terms of you want to cut a certain percentage or a certain raw number? Do you have some thoughts on that?
Off the top of my head.
Okay. But I'm just saying, I think that,
Because at the end of the day, Liz, the bottom line is, to get the kind of money we need, okay, to get the kind of money we need, Paul and I both know, we've talked over the years about it. It's got to be either income tax, it's going to have to be property tax, or, you know, to make any big changes. Or on the cut side, the only way you can do it is you have to control, I mean, we can order today, everybody cut their below line items another 1 or 2%. We could. I don't know what that'll get us, but basically it comes down to, this is why the wage freeze. We don't want to lay anybody off. They did in the past, but, you know, we have to cut somewhere. Either that or just face the fact that we're gonna raise either income tax or property tax. Because that's the only way you're gonna get that kind of money.
Well, Paul, do you have any idea where we can start at? Because like I said, I'm against freezing.
My thought today was to just, no, I don't.
What do we have in
It's
our,
again-
what do we have in our reserves? That is what is the number? Not 9, 10, 11, what is
It was
the number?
12.8 yesterday when I did the projection for the end of the year. But this December is always a bad year because there's 2 more big payrolls, and we're gonna end up the year about 10.8, 10.9.
Because you have to go into the
Yeah, we
fund.
have 2 big payrolls coming up and not a lot of bills, so
Okay, now we'll go to the water reserves. That's the second one that we would have to use for equipment only? Or,
equipment only,
and
correct.
where is that
That's at about 12 million.
12 million?
at? And
Roughly,
just-
right?
And there again, I'm just throwing things out there. With the equipment that we are showing in this
Well,
book.
we just gave them, yeah,
Okay,
And-
400,
Jimmy, that doesn't touch the general fund.
but could it touch the garbage truck? Could it touch
Yes,
They looked for a garbage truck for $200,000, I recall.
yes.
But then what's gonna happen, Jim, and Mel knows this, because he's on the committee with me, he's gonna get less money next year,
Yes.
okay? Because you're gonna lower
But
your,
and then I don't know if this is what we need to discuss, if this is an option where we can knock some of this down with some of our reserves.
I personally don't like knocking reserves down, because
Why do you have them?
Because the law, under accounting standards, and I went over this with Paul, because I don't know what the magic, they change.
2 months.
And I don't get to go for reports. But in accounting, they always tell you, the reserve is there in case you run into a problem. In the past, we had to take Tran loans every year. And I think
we're
Paul
in a
said
problem right now, aren't we?
Paul said the magic number is what, 14? Actually, one time? We really need 14 in there to be, if they looked at us and they audited us from an independent, an independent source come in here and said, and the bond companies, that's what another thing you better consider. The bond companies are gonna look at this and say,
Well, I'm not saying drain it either.
But-
Okay? I'm just wondering
but
if
it's
we
a-
can tap into it a little bit to offset some
I'll
of
listen to you, but it's,
these expenditures.
I've been here a number of years where the councils did that. They all thought, they started tapping that water reserve too. They were gonna send money to the zoo and send money to the authority and then we're only getting our money back we're still getting money back from the, Civic Center Authority slowly. That was a mistake council made in the past. So I mean, I would caution you.
And
If we're gonna
and
do it-
I am cautious,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, but I'm also looking at another avenue if we can tap into it. I'm not saying drain it, I'm not saying
Yeah.
take half of it, I'm saying that there's some wiggle room there to get something out.
I did ask Paul what
to
his-
help on our equipment.
I did ask Paul for, his comfort level, in his professional opinion, because, I mean, he's gonna be dealing with the bond companies, we're gonna be probably refinance a bond.
And that's all part of this. But Jim, can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Not off on a tangent on where you're going, but yes, we could buy a refuse truck out of the capital fund and save $200,000 in the refuse fund. I'm sorry, we could buy the refuse truck out of the capital fund, save $200,000 out of
General budget.
no, out of the refuse fund. So you have 35,000 people that pay garbage bills. We're gonna save $200,000 divided by 35,000 people. It's about $1 a quarter is what we're talking about. So instead of the raise,
I mean, I know
instead of
that-
going to $60 a quarter for all of us, it'd be $59. And then we could do that. Now, now the converse, or Teresa just talked about moving the money the other day in from the water reserve fund into the capital fund. On Wednesday, you as a group approved that transfer. There was a memo attached to that transfer that showed we had spent $418,000 this year on this, and that.
Which was budgeted for.
Yes, it was budgeted for, and we knew that we had to buy a couple police cars, and we had to fix up some things here in City Hall. And you've been on council 10, 11, 12,
Not quite, no.
9, whatever,
Not
however,
10, you-
however many years you've been on, at the end of the year, and Teresa comes over and yells at me, and Kaz says, get that thing going so we can do that transfer, and every year we transfer in the neighborhood $380,000, $425,000, and there's never been an excess on what needs to be spent where we would have the ability to spend $200,000 on a garbage truck. Now, I'm not saying, Chuck's out there and he might throw something at me right now. Maybe they don't get a 2-ton this year that they need in order to do plowing properly. Or maybe Chief Spizzarni doesn't get 4 police cars and we're using cars that are old. So there's always a trade-off. So could it be done? Yes, it could be done, but it's gonna take away from the ability to do other things.
I mean, even our cut in the fire truck, the brand new fire truck.
Yes.
That's coming,
That came out of some excess money that had been built up over the years. Reserves, if you will.
there's something,
Well, what we're afraid of,
something
Jim,
more we can do here than just,
Jim, nobody knows how the market's gonna go. And since council took back that water reserve, and I think the controller will bear it out, done pretty good. It's been a slow, steady growth, and we don't know what next year will bring. I mean, hey, we could have a market collapse, and Paul doesn't get 400,000 next year. And it's tough to get that money back once you take it out of there.
Right now, we're looking at.
I agree with you, Jim, and that's what I'm saying. There's only two ways we do this, okay? We either bite the bullet and raise taxes, because you're not gonna, I mean, some of this little stuff will help, you know, but it's not gonna solve the bigger problem, no. But we need to look at, you know, better collection, all that stuff, so that, you know, we get some money coming there, at least lessens the pain. But I'll proceed any way you guys wanna go. You wanna
We
put
have a
that
new administration. The mayor is visible. The new administration has hired wonderful people in various offices who are reaching out to the community. They are doing a great job. We didn't have those people last year. So there is a big difference between the tone and the attitude of the citizens between last year and this year. There is hope back in the citizens because of people like Neekin and Michael Outlaw and Renee and development planner and everybody that's working as a team that's out there in the neighborhoods. The Summer of Hope Initiative, the NATO centers, there's more people coming to the table. The mayor just had his mayoral address on the People's Supper and how the community will be engaging. This is a wonderful, engaging process. I have met with management. They are good people. It's not fair that, I'm sorry, but they deserve to be paid for what they're doing, and there's hope. Maybe we can just Band-Aid this for a year. I know that's a terrible thing in finance, but there are small businesses, there are businesses coming into Erie at this time. I am not for Alerta on the Bayfront. There are other ways that we can bring in financial hope. And
I just want it to be known that I am not voting for the budget if there's not a pay freeze. I think that the administration now can do the counting. I guess you have enough people to vote. I'm not someone, you know, I remember seeing years ago people who would vote against the budget as a political stand because they knew it was safe to vote against the budget because they knew it was going to pass. I am not voting for this budget unless there's a pay freeze. And it's the only way I think that you send a message. I love the mayor's staff. They are doing a great job. The administration promised performance reviews. Those are nowhere in sight. It is December. We were sworn in January. That should have been a top priority. Pay raises across the board for management are not a good management practice. We don't even have a pay matrix to know beyond the mayor's office what someone should be paid. There's no pay matrix, as far as I know. Is there a pay matrix so we know what a...
I know mine, and if you want to compare me to Allentown, Bethlehem.
Well, how about to people in county government? I don't want, you know, Allentown is... Yeah, I have the department head numbers for the county. Whatever, there should be a pay matrix. there need to be performance reviews. That's the way you run. I don't like it when people think that, government can be run like a business, but compensation in government should certainly be run as a business. So I just want to, I would like to make sure that we have, Kaz, do we need to have a vote, an actual proposal to freeze wages, and then the people who...
That'll be next week.
That'll be next week. We aren't going to do that today? Okay, so everybody will be on the record as to voting up or down a pay freeze, correct? Okay.
We'll be here.
We're not going to do that today, then?
What I want to do is move the meeting forward. So let's decide what we want to have Rose mark down that, it's open to discuss, that's realistic, okay? You brought the amusement tax up. Do you want to discuss that? That's on the table, right? Okay, Rose, are you listening? Mm-hmm. Okay. I didn't know if, we get a little wild around here, but what?
Can we do expenses first? So, because that gives.
All right.
At least me, the thinking on where, whatever you're planning on doing.
Okay, so
as a
far,
group.
we got the wage freeze.
Okay, I mean, going back department by department, obviously, we can't cut the risk management budget. We can't
No.
cut the liquid fuels budget. and
What
we
if- what
can't
if-
cut the capital budget.
What-
Is there something, is Jimmy going to propose deleting
In the past, I found,
machinery and equipment in the refuse budget?
My history at the-
Anything else?
my history at the school board has always been that for council to sit here and nitpick is tough, or the school board. But if we, like we used to tell the superintendent in those days, you cut where you think you can, okay, where you actually think, like we discussed the other day. Maybe this is the year you don't buy everybody a jacket, okay? Whatever you can cut is fine. If you can't, I mean, I can't tell you, Paul, I can tell you that the controller's budget is pretty dang lean, I know that.
As they all are.
But every department has a little fluff. Maybe they take one less trip or something, okay? I don't know, but if that's up to council, if they want to say, do you want to go below the item, or would you want to give them a goal to cut a little bit more, or?
I mean-
What's the goal,
And I'll just throw it out there, and I'll throw a figure out there, 3% across the board for every department
In
to cut.
what way?
In
That's pretty.
spending, in in your budget, in that department's budget, is there 3% fat, is there 2% fat?
Not really.
Can we
Because
try?
in most budgets, you're talking personnel and benefits. Below the line, you see that, and
They've already
read the
cut
number
that.
off.
I
We
get
cut
that, but
100
even overtime,
We
you
cut
know?
108 line items totaling $229,000. I mean, where jackets, and I know you brought up a certain department, where they had spent and didn't spend, those things were cut. Where in my department, as I said the other night, I was gonna go to the GFOA conference because it was in Philly this year. I didn't go. I still have to buy the accounting software that I get. So my budget's $4,000, of which 2,500 or 3,000 of it is accounting software. I have to have some paper, pens, and pencils. The police department, and one of the big things, as Kaz was talking about the 1%, when you look at the roll-up, there's $6 million of what would be considered variable expenses. And you could say, okay, cut those variable expenses. But as you go down those line items, office supplies, okay, you want to tell everybody they have to cut their office supplies. Okay, as Kaz said, you're nitpicking over $50. Okay, keep going though. Operating supplies are your oils and fluids and some of the things, and your toner cartridges for your printers. I mean, okay, wait, let me keep going. Fuel.
Okay, now there.
Cut the gas and diesel
Well, no,
fuel?
there-
Okay,
no,
let's do that.
No, but here's what you could do there. Too many cars are going home. By city ordinance, by the way.
Well-
We are backed up by city ordinance, so I'm looking at the administration, because by city ordinance, it's very specific who takes cars home. We haven't pushed that, okay? People should be getting 1099s here. Because the next time I see a police, the next
it's
time I
good I
see an
had this
undercover car,
conversation.
the next time I see an undercover car somewhere that don't belong there, I'm gonna start taking pictures, okay?
The IRS says de minimis fringe benefit, and the people.
What do you mean, what's that mean?
The people have been given the order that when they get a take-home car,
Yeah.
they're not supposed to use it for personal use. Now, if I'm driving home from here to my house and I stop at Tops, you know,
If you were working for, well, I'm not talking about Mel, because the utility my brother-in-law works at, you would be fired.
How many take-home cars are there?
there's in the neighborhood of 40. And that includes,
40?
yeah, about 10 motorcycles included.
And do we know how many of those take-home cars go to employees who live in the city of Erie?
I haven't done that in a few years.
Can we get that number? I was disturbed when I asked the police chief where those take-home police cars are going, because police can live up to 15 miles outside the city limits, am I right?
Yeah.
Okay, so he gave a very good example of why it was good to have a take-home car, because an officer was able to respond to the Pizza Hut fatal shooting. I said, do you have the police cars mapped out as to where they are? No. So, to me, it makes sense if you are a City of Erie police officer, because it does provide additional safety in the neighborhoods to see those cars. Or if you're within a certain short amount of response time to the City of Erie, what is the contractual requirement or offer on the police cars? Who's allowed to take one home? Do you know?
Management prerogative. There is, yes, you're right, there is an ordinance.
Yes,
There is
it's
an
very-
ordinance. But I guess, let's.
Can we get back to this? Because what do you mean management prerogative? So the police chief decides who gets to take one home?
Based on what their position is.
It's those who are serve on the NAT team, the SAT team, those who are on call 24.
Okay, and do we have it mapped?
I can ask the police chief. I would imagine he knows exactly who those officers are.
I
In
asked,
terms of map, in terms of geographical location?
Yeah.
I don't know if he.
can we get that
But
information?
it's not based on where they live, it's based on the fact that they are on call 24 hours.
I thought that the
Consider-
purpose of having the police cars being taken home is that you have a sense of security in a neighborhood.
That's not, no, these are the NAT and SAT officers.
All right,
who are on
so-
24 hours. SWAT, that they would have to drive here to City Hall to drop off their car, find the car that they'd be taking to the scene.
Paul just said that it was based on management prerogative, though, so is it,
That's the decision, that's his decision. Yeah,
We just need to look at that.
it's not just,
and who else has take-home cars besides police?
does anybody?
There might be a few
Fire chief, deputy fire chief,
Deputy
Some
fire
people in
chief.
Public Works,
no.
I think so.
Nope.
You sure?
How do we not know this? Like, just, shouldn't we have this at our fingertips?
Can we cut the number of cars that's going out?
Again, we just listed a whole bunch of things that are needed, and the department heads over the years have thought they were needed. So,
Well, what
if
does this-
we cut.
what does this
again, we
lead
go
to?
back can I?
Yeah,
no,
but what-
Let me answer
yeah,
the question.
but I mean,
If
what
we
does lead
cut,
to?
How much do you want to cut?
Well, Jim had an idea, but I don't know if I agree with him on 3, but I'm just saying,
Put it this way, and I'll even go, is there a way our police and fire chief can do something to curtail the overtime?
But does that have to do with this budget?
Well, it
Yeah,
does,
it
yeah.
does.
When you have 1.2
The
and
overtime
1
we're
million
talking
and 2.2 in police and fire overtime, that has a lot to do with the budget.
Well,
And
and
I'm
you
not,
look at the numbers in here, those hourly averages have gone on for 10 years, and that's what keeps our citizens safe, that's what makes that fire department work.
Well, and I would. and
but
I-
is there, and there again, is there anything the police chief and the fire chief, which there again, that might have been a
hey,
question.
we don't know if there's a
when they
big
were
fire
here.
or if there's a big case. We're not arguing there. We're saying the everyday operation, can we tighten it?
I know that in talking to both of them, our situation is that our numbers are so low, our total numbers, we are staffed to the max. So we have to keep so many firehouses open. If somebody's sick, they have to bring somebody in to cover that house, or you have to shut down that firehouse. So it's really beyond their control.
Paul, but
And with the police,
we all got, I don't want to talk over the air.
Okay.
We all got phone calls from different sources, okay? I'll discuss it with you,
No, I know what you're
because
saying,
it's personnel
guys.
matter.
Right.
Yes,
Well-
the chiefs have been very
Right.
Yes,
Well-
the chiefs have been very diligent over the last 10 years in trying to get that so that that doesn't happen. Where you and I trade our Saturday for your Sunday.
I repeat
so
once
we
again.
both- And that's been cut way down.
Because
over
I
the last
repeat
10
once
years.
again, these are serious, serious times.
Yes.
These are
I'm sorry,
big dollars.
they are.
Those are the,
Not
that's
saying
what
they're not.
jumps
How many,
out at you.
we
not-
have several police officers that are injured right now that are on light duty,
For,
at least, and for fire.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that, so that contributes because those officers can't be out on patrol. And so, you know, the chiefs, they don't know.
You see our dilemma, though, we.
Oh,
we have-
definitely, I
we can't-
do,
we can't
but-
control anything in this budget.
Yeah.
Neither can we.
Right now, why not vote on it? Because every time Cass or somebody or Jim suggests a change, we are told we can't do it. So why don't, just vote on it right now, I'm voting no, and we can all go home and,
I
Yeah.
agree with Liz. Let's vote. I vote yes.
Okay, are you really gonna vote? 'Cause you-
No.
See, you ain't got no chones.
We got serious work to do before I.
Like the
before I
Summer
nail
Jams
something.
program, we could cut that out. That's $20,000. The Summer Jams program, $20,000, we don't have to do it.
For the good of the community.
The community, I'm not saying it's not a needed thing. It's a wonderful program, and it's a needed program,
We have our
I
own
guess.
employment program.
But it was put in, you know, the mayor wants it to go in, and it's a wonderful program, but it's $20,000 that is an extra thing, and perhaps Erie County or Community Foundation or some other nonprofit organization out there could put the 20,000 in instead of Erie. So that's 20,000 right there.
I agree with that. I'd rather see that cut than to increase taxes or freeze wages.
And, and would, go ahead.
Okay.
Because they've been doing without the help of the city all these years anyway, so another year
can you
won't
just say
matter.
that?
I know it's nothing, but it's something, because all the nothings add up.
Yes, if that's the feeling, but if the percentage of the dollar amount, as you and I have talked multiple times, Kathy, you and I said this, yes, and Jimmy, as you and I have talked about this also, as we're talking about these services and supplies, let's, the $6 million of variable costs in there, when you're talking about fuel, and you're talking about the Berkheimer bill, and you're talking about, I don't want to bring it up and get you off on a tangent, but the BIU bill, the street lights, you don't have, there's not a lot of wiggle room in here. So for you to say, cut 3% out of a certain budget, that's a lot of money, and
I know
I
it
don't
is.
know where you.
But it gives
Well-
each and every department that incentive, like, this is all we got. It's not like back to the mentality was, we got it, we better use it or we lose it type mentality, and
I
I
don't
know
think
that.
that's the case, and, I mean, I don't want to
There's-
put you on the spot,
Oh,
but for the most part.
I'll put you on the spot.
spending, you see, you approve the list of bills each week.
Yes, and I'll put you on the
I
spot.
mean, is there excessive spending?
Yes. I
mean,
knew
what
that, I knew that.
Irrespective of the one department.
No,
you
two
wanna
or
bring
three
up, are
departments.
there-
Put it
Wait a
this way, when these
Two or
times
three.
are as tough as they are now, and we're faced with this, frugal is all there is to it, and then
Oh, there's two or three
That's
departments.
what- Here, the real variables, the office supplies, we cut $14,000 in departmental spending out of that budget. The consumables, $10,000 out of that. So the things that we're telling people, don't buy a new calculator if this one just doesn't work a little bit. Don't buy new pencils. Oh, I'm using a borrowed pencil from somebody in my department. We're not excessively spending. The repair and maintenance does go up. At Raz Auto Body, not to bring that up, do you raise your rates every year?
not every year.
Not every year, but you do raise rates.
Yes.
And with all the equipment and all the things we have here, you know, how many hundreds of vehicles do we have? How many buildings do we have? You know, we just got a bill, you approved a bill the other day for Plyler, for the door. Plyler wants to get paid more every year. I mean, those things go up, so it's easy to say,
And I'll go a step
don't
further.
break
Do we
things.
go to Plyler and say how much to fix this
No,
door?
we
Do
don't
we
go
go
to
to
Plyler.
overhead?
We
Do
don't go to Plyler and say that. What we do is get 3 quotes for all.
Okay, that's what I'm
Three
asking.
quotes for all those things, and use the best quote out of the bunch. And you know you voted on contracts for 9 years, 10?
No, I'm working on it.
Okay, well, contracts go out for bid. So if we're gonna spend, you just voted on the contract for wastewater for their ferric chloride and the polymer last week. Those things.
I mean,
big
we
things
gotta
get-
trust you that that part's
Well,
going
yeah,
out to
I-
bid
don't
and it's
trust
coming
me.
in front of it.
You voted on it.
Well, I
And-
get
and
that,
the contract comes back, and if we weren't doing that right, don't you think another vendor would call all 6 of you and say, hey, I put in a bid and, I don't think that this worked out exactly the way it should be. And you're not getting those calls, so we must be doing that right.
Do we bid on insurance?
So you got a call that we
Not about
incorrectly bidding?
But I've gotten calls about people trying to be able to do business and getting shut out. So, I mean, I don't know how to evaluate them, but there is a perception that you have to.
What are consumable items?
Batteries, toner cartridges, a calculator.
Now, if.
And I had the sheets,
Let me
Sonia,
ask you
for all the
this.
departments.
Let me ask you this, like when it comes from, as far as supplies, do you get a better rate when you buy in bulk?
Yes, and the purchasing department has had the people in from Office Max. They've had the people in from, as you know, because you approved the contract, we have a contract with Napa, where we're working with them to get those type of things at better prices. We have a contract, we do business with Lowe's and Value Home Center and all those places. They're constantly working on trying to get the best price for everything.
We had mentioned about university students. Why can't we bill the universities $400,000 each?
You can't legally.
They're
Yeah,
nonprofits for one.
That
That-
would almost be,
Wait, we're getting off track.
as you saw the list of the
That's
pilots,
for
and
next.
should they probably pay more or donate more to the city based on the assessed value of their property? I'm gonna say if they had a pilot, yes, but.
That's gonna be
to
revenue.
Send them a bill might be a little harsh, and that's something that may be needed to be negotiated between the administration, council, us, in total, and those various organizations.
With the pilot, properties and stuff, if we went up 50,000 a year on top of what they already paying, I mean, that's something, because me personally, the colleges and the hospital, they make millions, but they only give the city couple $100,000 a year. That's crazy. And they making millions. I don't understand that. So I really think if we go up on them, as far in the pilots, maybe 50, 60 grand a year, that would help.
Well, we're gonna suggest that after the first of the year, we're gonna put some resolutions together, urging the administration to put somebody on them, but getting back to the expenses, I mean, Jimmy has a good idea, I mean, I don't know where do we, Paul, we can't control anything, okay? I mean, it's like a fool's errand when
I
you
mean,
look at it.
Just to say, what if we budgeted 1.1 million for police overtime instead of 1.26? I mean, and then we come the end of the year, we have a shortfall, or we have a surplus, or we're right on. I mean, I understand the historic numbers, but those are big dollar items that there should be some type of control over overtime.
There has been a control over it, as you see the chart we laid out that shows the overtime each year, of the average hours. There's an absolute control by those two chiefs on what amount of hours, Jim, this one, what amount of hours are being used, and that's a pretty level, you know, there's things that happen, and there's a need for officers on the street. And again, I don't wanna go back to the Act 111 arbitrations, but when the group is given X amount of sick days, X amount of vacation days, and we only have the budgetary availability of 173 spots in that group, there's gonna be people off every day, and we can't send them out to the streets with less than minimum staff.
Let me
But, oh,
example.
okay.
Like today, that's why I'm late getting here.
All these policemen, right?
All these policemen. How come they can't do something like this in Prescott? Where we don't need.
They are
all
having
these-
one at Presque Isle right now.
Well, they need to do one day and one the next day.
But
'cause all these
but the
police-
Santa Hustle is paying for that. They're
Are they
paying
paying
for
for
those
the
police.
policemen?
Yes,
At what rate?
$65 an hour? Do you remember what it is? I think
Is that what we,
As
which
long
goes
as
a
they
fair
pay,
amount?
then the city don't have to pay nothing. The city shouldn't pay anything.
No, they pay for that. They have to get a permit, and
Jim, can I mean, I don't mean this.
I know, and I'm not, I don't either. There's gotta be,
Let's cut the, even though we know that the police have averaged 20,200 hours, and I don't know off the top of my head, but that's.
A year,
pretty darn
okay.
close. A year for the last 5 years, and times the average rate of each police officer gets you $1.26 million. If we cut that to 1.1 million today, so that we can cut some stuff, and that's good, what happens at the end of the year in December when we don't have the money and all the other departments have spent their budget? Is council going to, as part of this budget, pass an ordinance that said, if we go over budget, we promise that we're gonna put that money back into the budget from
I
the
mean,
reserves? I'm just asking.
every department needs some type of, not an open checkbook. And I know this is different, public safety, but there's just something that just is here that can be tweaked.
Paul, is there such a thing called control overtime and uncontrolled overtime?
No, everything in those departments, every overtime is approved by
Yeah,
the
but,
manager.
but,
Yes.
but there's, Paul, there's always, I don't wanna bring it up here, okay?
We might as well, we're here.
Well, I mean, we all got calls from different people, you know, that used to work here. I don't know if it's true or not. I'm not here. But they all say there's an abuse sometimes, okay? And we, you know, I did it in the private sector. I knew there was, you know, we had people coming in and, you know, their time cards weren't right, or, you know, every little bit is a problem, okay? People, you know, you're entitled to sick time, but are you taking it when you need it, okay? Because all these things, at the end of the day, you know, when the well was great, and Jimmy, I think that's what Jimmy's alluding to, when we were 138,000 people and money was pouring in like it is on the suburbs, nobody really cared. But now, you know, in a couple of days, we're about to levy something. Somebody's gonna pay.
Taxpayers again.
Somebody's gonna pay, whether it's the young people that are working, or it's the people that own homes. And, you know, when you got, and I'll say this, because I don't care if I get rode up or what, but when you got more than half the people that work here, that don't live here, they can't share the same pain we can. And Jim and I are gonna have to listen to these people, and Mel, when we, no, you're not gonna get the calls I get. I'll guarantee you that.
I'd rather find it in here where we make our
Yes,
cuts
and
instead of raising taxes.
But, you know, where are we gonna cut? Here's the thing. Jimmy's got a good idea. Paul's saying we can't. We don't have control over much.
My response to Jim is, we went through each one of the budgets. We went through department by department, and you watched that, and you were here, and you followed it. And took notes, because you sat next to me a couple days. Tell me where you want to cut. I mean, Jim, this is close to my heart, because I've dealt with all these.
What is free today? Nothing's free today.
Nothing's free.
Nothing's
I
free
agree.
today. Nobody want to raise taxes.
No,
Everybody
I
wants
because
service.
I live in the city.
You
not
want
gonna pay
service.
high. So I just,
Hey, you tell me about fixed income. It's a blessing to be on a fixed income if you live that long.
I just want to say, think of how much different this conversation would have been. First of all, the mayor and Paul said we are not in crisis. I think an $11 million deficit is a crisis. I think a $22 million projected deficit in 5 years is a crisis. Think of how much different this conversation could have been if the administration had acknowledged that we're in a crisis and had said that management would lead by example. And I'm sorry, I'm going back to the pay freeze, knowing that it would be a sacrifice for those who are working really hard. Now, when we're talking about the whispers we hear and the phone calls and the anonymous letters that we get about abuses, who's responsible for that? It is the managers, which is why we need performance reviews. Compensation based on performance, based on controlling cost, controlling overtime. So again, it sounds like I don't see how we're making any progress here. Jim has proposed a 3% cut in the budget, right? Am I? Yeah. What we'd like to do, maybe, is ask the administration to look at the numbers again and come back with a 3% cut. I'm going to give the example. Kaz was actually on the school board, and he's been controller, but when I went to that school board meeting last week, and Brian Polito had the budget in front of him and was actually looking ahead, okay, if we raise taxes this much X, this is how the numbers change. So what's wrong with asking the administration to come back with a 3% cut? I mean, say it's not possible.
And I'll just throw it out there.
3%.
Or
What, the whole budget?
Yeah.
Or the services and supplies?
3%.
across the board, or 2%.
Okay,
And there again, this is our job, but what if we, okay, instead of the earned income tax from 1.18 to 1.75, how about 1.50? What option does that give us? What if we raise the sewer only and
Just a little bit.
leave the garbage alone? What's that do for us? What if we take some money out of the reserves, 2 million? If we took 3 million, if we use some of the water reserve funds for the equipment? I mean, these are things I'm throwing out there just to try to.
Because we're coming back to them again next year.
I like Jim's thinking. I like what you're saying.
Here to here. I mean, it isn't gonna be one.
I mean, we're coming back here
1%
next
across the
year,
board to do all these others.
same mission.
As a public servant, you don't have to worry about my votes. I'm not running in 3 years, okay? So the people who voted me in, this is the hardest job I've ever had in my life. I am not running again. No, seriously.
We got that out of the way.
Yeah. So, and actually, I got into this job as a public servant. So I'll give up my $6,000 salary as long as someone just pays my gas. And I'll, seriously, because that's the way I am. That's who I am. I am a public servant. If you can give me gas money to go to the places I need to go, I'm fine with that. I'm just putting that out on the line for the public to know that, okay? All I need is gas money, okay? Because I am, well, that's it. So it may end up being more than 6,000, I don't know. But, again, be careful what you wish for, and losing sleep and not having good health sometimes. It's not, my family is important to me. My health and my friends are, the keys in my life. So I love this city, and I want to do what's best for the city. And how about webinars? Can we put a freeze on traveling to things out of state? Or, wouldn't that be something? And just people attend webinars for a year.
You could put, like the school district, put a 1 trip per person limit, unless it was something really beneficial to the group. It had to be judged by the department head or the president of council. Like, we all go to, like, one major convention here, that's it. Not a convention, but the League of Cities. That's how he did the school board. You only got 1 trip. You didn't get to go to, here and there, but Jim,
But I don't think.
Jim, what do you propose?
I don't think as a city, and
What do you-
maybe I'm wrong, or maybe I'm naive, I don't think we abuse this trips here and there too often.
No, but it's just an idea. What are you proposing, Jim? What we'll have a so we can move forward. You wanna across the board.
It would be nice if we had a few options, just if we did a 1%, 2%, 3%, and what we would do if we lowered the earned income tax, you know,
Same with the
okay,
wage.
we'll accept
That
it
is
going
what-
down, but
I don't want any raise.
that big of a
I agree with
jump,
you, but
I don't want any raise.
do sewer or garbage, not both.
And I
That's a
mean,
burden.
and if each department take a look at their budget and say, okay, if Jimmy's saying 3%, let them find in their budget, they may have to take a little bit out of every area to get to.
We're gonna end up having to cut people in multiple departments. Because there's multiple departments, if you start cutting that because of the fixed costs of running these departments, you know, you just don't have the money. I mean, I'll go to Kaz's favorite
I'm still
department,
not-
let's go to code
I'm
enforcement.
still not satisfied with the 400,000 from CDBG funding for our community policing. That took
Well-
a hit, and I'm not done with that yet either. If we can get that money back where we can use it to help all the citizens of Erie for that money. I mean, that would help the police overtime.
Okay, but the 3% across the board,
I'm still not.
code enforcement, $1.8 million. 3% of $1.8 million, 55 grand, okay? Below the line, he's got $558,000 of below the line expenses, of which 500,000 of that are BIU for the rental program, the mechanical program, the electrical inspections, and all the inspections that come there. So you can call those variable expenses, but we're not getting rid of those. So literally, Andy has $58,000 of spendable money in his budget, and 3% of his total budget is 55. So we're gonna leave him with 3 grand for everything else. Again, going through it, I sat here with you and watched you making notes on this stuff, where, I mean, we went through department by department, cutting from the roll up. Jimmy, it's easy
I know
to
you're
say,
the finance director, and I know
cut from
you're,
the roll up, cut 10%
this is your
every year.
job.
But these are things that historically, the departments have spent, they've needed these things. You know, you have a budget here for the clerk's office, they spend their money.
No, we haven't spent it all. And I had recommended, actually, because we do have money left in our account, that we bring in a consultant at the last minute who could give us an objective look at this. I mean, we still have money left in the city clerk's budget. How much have we spent year-to-date of that $30,000 for professional services? Well, it's in the budget, right?
The budget was put together in October.
Okay, so Rose, have we spent more money in professional services since October, do you know?
I don't think so.
Yeah, so whatever number's in there, we have that amount in there. Right? So can we turn to the city council page and see how much money we have left, approximately? It's right in the front of the budget. Yeah, we're like the very first page. So how much is there for that line item for professional services? No, 17,587. We have $17,000 this year. I'm not saying to blow it. It should go to the bottom line, but what would be so hard about asking someone who is an expert on municipal finances to come in and give us a second opinion, a second read on the current budget? And also, I do have a question as to, you use zoning as an example. What kind of marching orders were given to department heads as this budget was prepared? Were they told, you need to cut a certain percentage?
No, not a certain percentage. Spend the least amount of money that you can. What can you live with the least amount in spending?
And there was no particular target on overtime to say to the department heads and those who spend the most on overtime to say, listen, we need to keep down the overtime cost. There were no particular orders on that?
Absolutely not. We would never tell the police chief to cut his overtime based on a targeted number, or the fire chief. They do not just indiscriminately give out overtime. So that suggestion, I don't know.
But I just want to go back, there was no,
No.
overall, there was no order to department heads that we're going to have a really big ballooning deficit and it cut a certain amount. So it was like kind of business as usual, correct?
We asked, every department came up with a budget, and then Paul went over each budget with that department head and asked where they could make cuts. I can tell you about the mayor's office specifically, or I know more about the Department of Economic and Community Development. They cut 2 people out of their budget. I think they cut about $140,000 in salaries, benefits, expenses. They cut back on trips. We did the same thing in the mayor's office.
And what about if 2 departments could do that, why weren't other
Those are the only 2
departments?
I'm familiar with, but I'm sure Paul could speak to the sessions that he had with the other departments.
I'm
We-
asking, I'm not that I'd like,
We cut in the police department too.
We had 2 departments that said, we are going to cut.
We also cut in the police department, we cut out some civilian staff in the police department.
again,
I mean, we went,
How many,
108 line items, $229,000.
we cut about $550,000 in salaries and benefits. 6 positions net, right?
wouldn't that tell you something, though, that if Chris Groner's department said, we can live without this number of people, that there are different approaches to the budget depending on who is in charge? If people had been told from the get-go that we're going to have an $11 million deficit, and we want either a certain percentage cut or a certain number, I think we would not be here arguing as much today. I just want to reiterate that I did the budget at the newsroom for 12 or 13 years, and every year we started the budget process with orders from the publisher about what we were trying to achieve. I know that, public service or city hall is different than the newspaper, but the same principles apply in budgeting, and I think Kaz has talked a lot about the private sector. You don't open with an open book. I looked at, the city of Pittsburgh has exited Act 47. And if you go online and you look at the city of Pittsburgh budget, the mayor there explains how the whole budget process works. When it started, when you started with department heads and what they were told to do. We never had any of that information until we got the $11 million bomb dropped on us. We were not, and I know people can attest to this, I had asked months ago that the budget process start. And we were told, well, we always do it in November. We should have known, this budget should have been started in January. Yeah, but I mean,
It honestly started in January.
but we should have been involved from January in saying, let's look ahead.
Mid-year report,
But council,
I wasn't
council's
thinking
not
we
part
were
of that
looking at
process.
11 million mid-year.
I mean, we show up
Talked about the fact that the debt service was going up.
Yeah, but I don't think there was one council person that had the idea that we were gonna be double digit.
We knew that those transfers were not gonna be available.
Correct.
From refuse and sewer, and we knew that
Three.
the debt service was going up. And salaries and benefits go up a couple million every year. So,
And maybe I was naive, or maybe we just weren't looking at double digit deficit.
yeah.
And
12
then,
months ago, we
and
talked
then,
about this.
being not part of the process, we're invited to a press conference where we're slammed with ideas that we never saw coming. Okay? That's not right. I think we need to be part of the process going into next year. I know I'm gonna ask for it,
Well,
and,
I'm hoping some of these revenue-driven ideas.
well, we're gonna have to do something, because, we can't do business. Let's move, I don't wanna, Jim, what are you proposing that you look at? You said it, across the board.
So and even, we could do it in different increments if you want, do a 2% across the board, see where that puts us. We got general fund money,
$6 million.
general fund money, we got, I know, the community policing hasn't, I'm still gonna check into that even myself. That was just a chunk of change I really believed in was working for us. Personally, I don't think there's anybody here that wants to, one or the other, raise the sewer, raise the garbage, not both of them. That isn't fair to the citizens. And I don't know if we can figure out the number, if we take that earned income, sure, bump it up, but what if we bump it up to 1.50 instead of 1.75? Give us some options on,
Let me speak first to the refuse. Can we not raise the refuse rates? And the amount of money we will collect will make sure that that budget works acceptably. The problem is, we're not gonna be able to do $750,000 of the transfer back from the refuse fund to the general fund if everything goes well. So then, now we're gonna be short $750,000 in the general fund. So we're gonna have to make that up somehow. Same with sewer. Sewer actually, without doing any type of increase, there's two options here. Sewer, no transfer at all, slight increase in sewer rates. General fund must now make up for the $1.1 million revenue that the sewer fund was going to give. So if you do those two things, somehow now we need to make up $1.8 million in the general fund.
well, I know those are what we're trying to have cut out of here, but there again, now let's go back to the general fund or our reserves. Can we tap into our reserves? Can we tap into water reserves to offset some of the
Water
equipment
reserve,
we're
no,
buying?
unless you get five. 5 votes for water reserve.
Six.
Six?
The super vote.
Super, okay.
Six
Cash
again?
reserves in the general fund, you could take $2 million out of that to not deal with the transfers and not raise the sewer and refuse rates. Gonna have to deal with it again next year, though. We'll be
know.
sitting here 12
Well,
months.
at least
We'll be
we
sitting
can
here 12
warn.
months from now, knowing that that's gonna have to happen. So to answer that question,
Maybe
no
we can
transfer,
offset that.
no transfer from sewer, no transfer from refuse, $2.2 million in taking money out of the bank. So now instead of having 10, call me 11 million at the end of the year, we're only gonna have 8 or 9 million at the end of the year. Now, the problem there is, and it has not happened, but we have a cash flow projection where in the end of February, before Sue's real estate taxes start coming in, you get down into that
They aren't
area.
Sue's real estate taxes. Sorry, they aren't her real estate taxes. They are citizens' real estate taxes.
Should I continue?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. We only have $3-4 million in the bank. Now, if something happens or the collections don't come in and now we get down too low, we don't have any money in the bank, and now we're back to the tax anticipation note and we're paying
When was
interest
the
on
last
that.
time, funds didn't come in though? How long ago?
Never.
Thank you. And I'm all for living for tomorrow, but today we're here.
So, could those two things, yeah, that can happen. But remembering again, I just want that to be clear, as
We are kicking the can down the road a little bit, is
we're
what you're
talking
saying.
about the fact we don't remember, we didn't talk about all those transfers and the debt service. We will not have that 2 million again next year, that we're gonna have to deal with that.
But we can also warn the citizens
Yes.
that, hey, this year, we're not gonna raise water and sewer, but next year, expect it to go up, so they can kind of prepare.
Okay,
for it.
yes.
And that's what it's all about, preparing for it. Just don't spring things on people, because they have to prepare for it. You know, they already
Understand.
Well, Sonia, I agree with you. My suggestion has always been, it never happens, that I would rather nip them at $250,000, $500,000 every year.
Which is what the mayor has proposed moving
Well,
forward.
you know what we don't know is, I'm hoping this mayor does that,
He has already
okay?
publicly stated.
But he's got to talk to us during the course of the year, so we know we're on the same plateau together. We can't have a press conference where we show up and we're given, well, this is what I'm going to do, then 2 days later, well, I'm not going to do this because this guy knocked on my door and this guy knocked on that's not how you do business. Paul, if we're in this together, remember, he proposes, we dispose. This is, we're the ones that pay the piper.
I agree, I'm just saying, Jim, 3%.
He looks good and we don't, So,
Because we only have $6 million of what are called variable expenses, and of those, more than half of those are happening whether we like it or not. The gas bill, the electric bill, $500,000.
But also, Paul,
The fuel, that stuff is happening. So again, I go back to, you have some office supplies. You wanna tell me to cut my office supplies by $100? Now we're back to what he's talking about. You're cutting stuff. Okay, let's go through department by department and we cut $50,000, $10,000. I mean, you're,
That isn't gonna
again,
fix the problem.
right. So
But-
3%'s not a doable number. 3% of 80 million's $2.4 million. We don't have 2.4 million out of 6 million to cut. There's just, it's not there. 1%, you know, is there $800,000? I'm gonna say no way. That just, I mean, you look through this stuff, and what's this department? Oh, my department, $400 in office supplies. And that includes all the paper, all the manuals, all, you know, all the toner cartridge for a printer, professional services, that's for the accounting software. You know,
Oh, you should-
$75 for my portion of the long distance when we're calling the IRS and, you know, that kind of stuff. And,
Paul, you see our frustration?
Kaz, I do. I absolutely positively do.
I mean-
And I understand you coming down on me, but I've lived this, and I am, you know.
I'm telling you, I'm telling you
trying to make you happy.
I'm telling you the
Trying to
perception.
make the citizens happy.
Well, you know what they want to see? They want to see us doing our job
Oh, yes, they do.
absolutely effectively. They want to get responses properly. They're going to pay, they know that, okay? But they want us to be as sharp as we can be, and we're not.
Yes.
We can't be a rubber stamp.
And we're
I'm
not.
saying you should be.
I mean, look, you know what? I said to the press the other day, cutting anything we talk about is not going to solve, you and I both know that. At the end of the day, come Monday or whenever it is, somebody's going to pay a lot of money,
Yes.
okay? The problem is, we're running out of sources to get that money from. And if, you know, how we approach this problem, you know, we got to start generating revenue, we got to get people moving, but we can't do business as usual, okay? We can't have, you know, I've heard it all along, it's little things. People ask me, why is our cars idling when somebody's not in them? You know, all those things they don't understand, okay? But they look at that and they watch their money bleeding out somewhere. You know, they look at it, they watch our people walking around, you know, they look at all these festivals and they wonder, who's paying for this? Okay, that's what they ask. You know, if we're gonna sit there and rubber stamp things, we gotta come up with something somewhere. You know,
But so.
I don't know what the-
Jimmy, you mentioned rubber stamping.
Well, I didn't,
You know,
Not
the rubber
personal.
stamping, we put a
well,
lot of effort
what I'm
into
saying
this.
is, there's
And
no
listen,
way
every
we can,
department head was-
we're not doing our job if we
Budget.
say, okay, $11 million.
Nobody wants to hear it, but.
no, we do, but if we can't make cuts anyway.
Oh, no, Kaz, you've taught me since the day I walked in the door. You, Clem, and Ron, we prepare the budget, council makes the changes. You're asking me. I'm just telling you what Jimmy is saying about 3% is not doable. Just not
So,
doable.
Okay, so let's
Not
go back
doable.
to the 1%.
Anything.
And
And
1%, 800,000?
800,000. So you sat here and looked through the book, and I watched you make notes.
Not
Help me-
all
help me
year
with
long like you
800
did.
Hey, help me with $800,000.
We have 27 ideas on a list there. I gave you copies of it. I emailed it to you. I know that you took notes the other day, right? Thank you, right? So was there any response immediately to the ideas that we came up with? Wouldn't it have been nice to walk into this meeting today and say, we did find out, thank you, how much they charge for mulch, correct? So we know that other places are charging for mulch.
But what we can't do here is for sure, we can do the amusement tax.
But we also could have had like some quick reaction, like the mulch to everything else that we listed there. Yes, no, maybe, we can even do you better on this one.
But those are revenues. What about,
Well,
Yeah, this kind of stuff, I guess, on here is gonna be something we're gonna be looking at for next year's
But there should
Some of
be
it.
something that we could have done even in terms of revenue right away.
What can we
To
do?
know that it would
Yeah,
help our
at least-
budget.
What about
You know, we
expenses?
sat here and
do you want
had a
to-
great brainstorming session, and if I were in charge on the other side, I would have said, in addition to the mulch, hey, I really like this. Council really came together and came up with a bunch of ideas. Let's respect their ideas and say, we can move forward on this. Maybe this is a first quarter thing. Maybe this is something we do by the end of 2018. That's what I would have done if I were in charge.
I think next year, what Liz brings up, I think, after you go through with your department heads, okay? You follow me? Mm-hmm. Then I think the council liaison should meet with their,
And which you all did.
yeah, but we really don't have the budget in front of us, and, we need to go over the budget with them and tell them what our, have them explain to us exactly what they're doing with it. And then we'll see if there's anything.
Cass, let me ask you a question. On your SharePoint, I posted this 2 months ago,
Yeah.
so I'm sure everyone's had a chance to look at this. The spending patterns for the last 10 years, which bear out what is done in this book. If when you sat down with, I don't even know what department this is, public safety, and you see that they're spending 500, 300, 400, blah, 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 and you're the liaison to that department, I'm sure you would have said, hey, what the heck's going on here? Your spending's been X, 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 and now you're doing that. I guess, Jim, that's what I'm asking. You're just indiscriminately saying cut 3% or 1% or whatever the number is, but my question is, and
It's what they do in the private sector.
where? I mean, did anybody see waste in this budget? Did anybody see something that doesn't need to be done? Did anybody see, I mean, I have $75 line item. I mean, do you want to cut that to 60? Jim, I'm not trying to be a smart aleck to you. I'm just saying to you, and Cass and I have had this.
And we're not here trying to be
Cass,
almost saying that we know your job, but we're the ones. I don't care what anybody
no,
says.
I get it,
I
but
can't,
you're
I don't
here.
want to sound like Kaz, but I can't go to the grocery store. I
You're
can't
outside.
go to the club. I can't go to
understand
the,
that.
what, I mean,
Understand that. So, Cass, you
You
and I.
hear it though, I know.
I know I hear it.
Public Works is having their contract renewed when?
For
Teamsters.
Teamsters?
Are up. We
right
already did
now.
apps. We already did
We're
apps.
starting the process going right now.
Okay. Is there any differentiation as to everything's
Well, we're
going
gonna
to
ask
pass?
for some things, and they'll ask for some things, and then we'll negotiate it out to see where, what's workable with us and what's workable with them. But since Kathy, there hasn't been an official meeting yet, we're just in the process of putting our proposals together as they're in the process of putting their proposals together. So I wouldn't want to speak to that,
Okay.
Out loud.
Me personally, I just think is that if these big nonprofit business paid a fair share of taxes, we wouldn't be sitting here.
And the citizens have to pay their bills. It's on the Erie website. I mean, people have to pay their bills. And I know it's difficult. These are difficult times. I know that. I feel that.
It's more difficult if we raise taxes and everything else on.
So
We're
my-
already
my-
struggling now.
My suggestion to the administration is when you're negotiating, I hope there's a sense of urgency that, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I know it ain't pretty out there. I'm not seeing any new neighbors in my neighborhood. I still got 3 empty lots next to my house.
And that's why I'm so concerned, because my neighborhood has houses up for sale too that are not selling. And I always thought that would not happen.
Welcome to the new reality. But, okay, we're at expenses. Jimmy, you had some ideas. Rose got them marked down.
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. Anybody else have any ideas on expenses? I mean, I don't know where we can really cut. I mean, we're limited so bad that,
I think Jim's idea is to provide options.
Yeah, just,
Yeah, I mean, and then.
if we
you
take,
just
put it
have
this way, and
something in
if,
front of you.
if, 2 million out of the general fund is too much, out of the reserves, and, well, this is if we take 1 million out, and, that's what you have to help us with, to say, here's your options, boom. This is, you gave us one option,
Jim, I'm not for reserves as,
I'm not for reserves either.
Kaz is not,
I'm
but
not- I'm not
could
a
you
fan
take
of that.
two and it's livable? Yes, it is, but as Kaz mentioned, I mean, there's a handout showing where our cash is versus what GFOA says we should have, and we're below it to begin with.
Because we're only one accident away from problems.
Correct.
but
Jim, I
I'm not
applaud
a-
you because you're thinking, this is the first time I've ever had budget sessions where we weren't out of here in 3 days. We're thinking it's really serious, and it is.
well, it is.
And that's why I think, I'll look into whatever he wants to, and it's up to the majority of council to decide.
Is there any appetite for bringing in an outside person to look at this?
I don't know if there's enough time
Yeah,
to
that's
even
the
have
problem.
that.
I'm gonna call, Kathy and I went to this municipal budget workshop, and this guy from, I think it was DCED, offered to help basically anytime. I'm gonna call him on Monday and just ask what he would suggest.
Well, I did talk to my old, like I said, my old professor, and we could put a volunteer committee together,
Quickly?
Well,
Yeah, I
Hey.
mean, go for it.
but it's not gonna happen before we vote on this.
I still think it would be good this budget is available online, the budget worksheets.
Because you
are
do know we
available
got to
online.
have this done by.
I know. Somebody's really committed. It doesn't take that long to look through the actual budget.
So, outside,
worksheets.
are we done with expenses then?
We certainly aren't done with the golf courses as a source of expense.
No, you,
But I think some of that stuff's gonna come into,
Revenue?
No.
I mean, it's on our list here. I made a copy of the list of things we compiled. I just sent it to Renee and Paul.
but that isn't gonna affect this budget.
It should. Why do we want to lose another 141? I think it's actually very
But-
close to the pay raises. We are
But
on
it's
track to
not
lose
something I don't think we
147,000.
can,
we won't be able to negotiate a deal between now and the end of the year.
Why can't we say that we aren't opening them unless they're leased? It's December.
I think it's a good goal, and I agree with you. We should, right after budget,
It's in their lap.
instruct them
Give us a
to
response.
come up with a lease.
Not today, give us a response by next week, the pros and cons. And I don't mean the golf pros. Jim got my pun. And how long have I talked about the golf course? Wouldn't you think that there would have been some
well, put it this way
about
though,
this a few months ago?
but it was just brought up this past week about leasing it, which,
A lot of these things we're gonna have to do early next year. I mean, we're gonna have to get resolutions in place, instructing the administration to study these things, instructing Attorney Betza, because even if we pass them next year, they will have a positive effect on the budget. It'll be,
Possibly, yeah.
yeah, I mean, if we start collecting it. So do you wanna move on to, what do you wanna move on to, revenue real quick, or?
I think we should.
Okay, we agree, we wanna look at amusement tax, correct?
I agree, because that way the people in all the outlying areas, and that's, what do you call it? Like, everyone spends their money in a different way. I don't really, I spend my money socializing. I like to socialize. That's how I spend my money. Some people spend their money on concerts, and that's how they spend their money. Some play, health, fitness centers, and whatever. So that's disposable income. And if they choose to come into town for things, that's their disposable income. That's what they want to do. You choose, if you want to go to the casino, if you want to go to the golf course, if you want to go to a play or a movie or whatever, that's how you're spending your money. And, in living with, my budget or whatever, I know how I want to spend my money. And that way, the entire surrounding community If they want to go to a play, they're going to go to a play, they're going to pay the extra dollar or whatever it is.
Do we want to raise the parking tax?
Let's stay with what she's
Oh,
talking
okay,
about.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Let's just stay with what she talked about. We jumped from one.
All right,
to the
I
other.
apologize. Go ahead.
Let's just, let's,
All right.
It's just disposable income. I
Well,
mean,
I agree with you, and I think,
that's.
you know, case,
And
the
that's
adminis-
something they can do without. They don't have to go unless they really wanna go.
well, we had an offer for 100 and some thousand from the Civic Center, which sounded great for this year.
So, yeah, so they were gonna voluntarily pay the city for their building permits. They don't have to do
Yeah,
that.
but what about next year?
Well, but if you
How about if-
increase the amusement tax to 5%, then Casey's gonna keep that money to use to pay for the increase in the amusement tax, because the season tickets have already gone out for next year. So the Otters, the Seawolves, they are all gonna have to pay it out of their pocket. They're already losing money. The Otters lose $1 million a year to stay in Erie. So he's gonna use that money. I'm just telling you, listen, I'm just saying, he's gonna keep that money to pay the increase so that the owners don't have to pay it. So we're gonna have to come up with $30,000 more in the budget
What
then.
a year two?
Year two, we could talk about year two.
No,
If
no,
we
no,
gave them a heads up,
Renee,
if we gave them a heads up for next year, then they could put it on the ticket
Renee,
prices.
We need to know now. I've been through this.
Well, then we need to talk to
You know what
them.
this number is? That's the number of times I have tackled with the Convention Bureau since I've been in government, okay? I've heard the same whining, the same gnashing of teeth. She probably wrote the articles, maybe Kevin did, and
I'm just
I've been through
telling
it,
you.
okay? Here's what I want to know. I want to know, what are you going to get? You know, we gave you all this land that's now tax exempt, okay?
State designated,
Pardon?
designated by the state.
I don't care, but all the land that he's acquired come up to tax rules, okay? The hotels by special legislation, we don't get a dime out of there, okay? There's not even a recognition that the city bankrolled him when the city had the convention authority to the tune of about 100 and some thousand a year back then, or a couple 100,000. The school district subsidized pro baseball for how many years, okay? And here's the bottom line.
Asking that we plan ahead.
I go out of town, and I had a guy come up to me,
We
pardon?
need to plan ahead, that's what I'm saying.
I
We
had,
can't
yes,
do
and
anything
I'm
about
telling you how we're gonna do it. I had a guy come up to me and said, I went to TSO and I paid X amount of dollars. I don't care if he charged me $2. I don't know where he gets in his head that on the ticket, okay, you just add the extra on,
The
okay?
season tickets are already out for next year.
Yes, I understand that.
What other thing, there will be that core people that'll still go, but they're gonna lose some people that affects the team owner.
But you know what? We have no options, Jim.
But
We got all the
may-
entertainment
we
here,
may
and
here.
we got all the entertainment, no money coming in.
I want to point out that the proposed increase in the amusement tax was in a document that came out November 7th. It's 1 month later. What kind of due diligence was done on the proposal that came out November 7th if you're going to tell us, oh, the season tickets are already sold? That doesn't make any sense. It does not make any sense. The Otters are not selling season tickets right now for 2019.
Yes,
For 2019.
season doesn't end till March.
And they're selling season tickets for 2019. What due diligence was there on November 7th? What's the difference between November 7th and December 8th? It doesn't make any sense now to listen to what Casey Wells says, his protest.
We didn't,
Was there any due diligence on this?
we thought the same thing you did. It was in the EIP, we should charge 5%.
Uh-huh.
We did not talk to the owners in advance. The owners called us.
And
This was a
complained.
proposal.
The
This was a
owners who
proposal.
are getting $12 million in state money
The
to
owners-
revamp UPMC Park.
MC Park, we're getting
We're getting $12 million in state money.
the owners.
Pardon me?
The owners aren't getting the money to update UPMC Park.
The owner,
The city of Erie and the Convention Center Authority.
they're
got the
getting
money.
$12 million in
Community,
state
that's an
money
asset.
to be able to upgrade the park so more people come in there.
Yes.
How much was Erie Insurance Arena upgrades? $45 million. and the auditors are still complaining about losing money? Let's go back to the previous owner of the Otters, who was not paying taxes to the city of Erie, okay?
That's a fact.
I'm just asking that we plan ahead. If it's.
And so now we're going to take this off the table too. What are we doing here? Why are we waiting here? Because everything we do, we can't do.
What the reasoning
We're
is
gonna
for this
lose.
year.
their-
We're gonna lose
The
an extra.
permits that they're voluntarily willing to pay the city exceed the increase, the 2% increase.
But only for
We have
a year.
no control over it, so they decide, right. But they're gonna keep that money instead to pay the 2% addition in the amusement tax, so the owners don't have to foot the bill. If you want to consider increasing to 5% for next year, then at least they would have a year to plan ahead, and they could add that into the ticket prices. That's what I'm
Where do we get the
saying.
money from the other amusement venues that are not the Civic Center? You know, we do get amusement from other areas.
It's the same, it's all the same.
But they're not giving us a contribution. The Playhouse is not giving us one, Gannon's not giving us one.
His
We
is
get
making
a-
up for all.
Huh?
The 190 he is offering as in lieu of the, not paying
190.
the building permits is
Seeds.
higher than what everybody would pay.
He needs to
We
come in
get
here and talk to
200
us, not the mayor.
Kez, we
I'm
get
tired
two-
of that,
Well,
you
I
know,
think it
behind the
was
scenes.
written-
Come here
we
and
got a
talk to
letter,
us.
didn't we?
I
Didn't
don't know.
Bring him
we
in
got a
here.
letter?
Yeah, I
Kez,
thought you
got
guys did get.
240,000 on 3%.
We don't even know if those numbers are right, Paul. You know why? Because I'll tell you this, and I know how Dave Rocco calculates them.
David Rocco. from-
He does not go into the arena and look
Christine
at
from
them.
my office, go through that showcase every week, looking to see what events are being held, and they make sure those events pay us.
Do you know how many people go to Gannon basketball games?
No, I do not.
You know, they always put 3,200 in the paper at times. I laughed at that number. How do we know if it's 34 or it's 29? We don't, okay? Word of mouth honesty,
Yes.
okay? That's not, you know, that's what I'm saying. You know what? Bring him in here and let's talk. Let's talk about our future
I
and him.
think you should. I think you should talk
Well,
to
you
the
know what,
owners.
but-
I think
But
you
when he
should
talks
talk
to the mayor and
convention.
you don't send him down here and he's working behind the scenes,
I thought they were talking to you.
no, they don't talk
Have
to
we
us.
ever requested them to come to talk
Well,
to us?
that should be, that should be
No, it
obvious.
shouldn't. If we're concerned about it, then we should
Then I'm
say
saying it
so.
right now.
Well, then
Okay.
call them up and we'll set up a meeting.
He,
That's all.
he can be March Finance Committee.
Make them come to you.
Well,
Make them come to
we
us.
got problems. We have serious problems going forward. We're a big tourist town, but
Well,
we
you
give
ask Bill
everything
Leonard
away.
to come in, he's gonna come in, you ask Sean Emerson to come in, he's gonna come in, so the meeting after that, have Casey.
But we got the
come in.
reality of today.
Or you want two of them?
We have today's reality. That's the problem.
There you go.
So, pardon? Put the amusement tax on there, that's for discussion. Not one of those guys called me or wrote me.
You didn't get a letter?
You should have had a letter.
Nobody called you.
I talked to a couple on my own, but they,
believe you got a letter
if they're
from
concerned, like when I was a school board member, we were all getting calls from them personally.
We have
Letters and
emails.
everything. I didn't get one.
People have been emailing us.
Well, I didn't get one from the convention center.
I think you,
Yeah, we
I
did.
think you did.
I don't remember seeing it. You got one? I didn't.
And some other person.
Okay, what else you want to move on to another tax?
Move on.
Let's see, what do you, how about, if we go in the order, you want like realty tax or the parking revenue? Do we want to look at
We
parking?
want to say parking, if there was a parking tax or something we were thinking about, is that,
What's the matter? You don't like that?
Well, it's 15 already, 15%.
we just bump,
Think that's high?
15.
Mechanical devices, we can do that one. That's only like 75. You know what that is, don't you, Jim? Pretty much?
no,
Jukeboxes,
oh,
games of chance in the,
the gaming.
a lot of the social clubs will have them, and,
I don't even know if they're even out there as much as they used to.
No, they're not. And David usually deals with Romeo.
but that's
and the
also
other
pop,
one
though. It's also vending machines,
On
too.
their own, so.
I mean, I'm just throwing it out there, I mean,
Are we getting the ones for like the pop machines on the corners or?
I don't know that answer.
I think
That-
technically if they, supposedly, well, we should have had David here. The way I understand it, when Flippy was here, he looked at that. And we have to give them easements when they put pop machines out on the sidewalk. But I think the vending machines inside the buildings, I think that qualifies.
Which would
Well,
kind
we're-
of get to the point about do we charge for easements, which is much farther down on our
Yeah.
list. But if the pop machines are easements, but you don't think there's nothing, we have nothing right now that requires.
On easements?
Yeah.
No, we don't. Not that I'm aware of. Were you, Paul? I mean, like the other day when we did the sign easement, you know, that was like gratis. All we ask is that they indemnify the city and that the engineer goes out there, because he has to go out there and make a report. So actually, David Rocco suggested that, you know, we could do like on an easement on a sign, that could be a one-time, you know, for somebody to come out there and measure it, determine. But on like constant usage, for instance, like a cafe on the side of the sidewalk, that could be every year. I mean, the state, like if you get a liquor license and you want to sell beer outside of the building, you have to get what they call an extension of premises. From the state, that's extra, so is there an appetite to look at the easement fee?
Oh, definitely. But see, some of this stuff is what we're doing after.
Yeah, but I mean, we gotta put in
There's
place,
nothing.
we can put that in place for next year at least. It'll help the budget a little bit going forward. I mean, it's not gonna help this year, but if we raise it, and, you know, as soon as we raise it, you know, that will have to be implemented. But raising things, we can do them and probably get them in place before the end of the year.
I'm thinking our plates.
You get that one, Rose?
I mean, I think
What, the
Easement
easement?
fee.
Yeah, I got it.
20 restaurants that requested sidewalk easements. I mean, if we charge $100 each, it's $2,000.
What was that?
We have about 20 restaurants that requested sidewalk easements.
But there's a lot of them that don't. When I was controller, I did a list, and half of them that existed downtown didn't even bother going through the legal process. Now, that might have been, you know,
Well, if there's 30,
pardon?
if there's 30 and we charge about $100, that's $3,000.
Yeah, but it's not only that, though. It's all over town now, we're starting to, you know, people are putting tables and chairs up, and the other day I went up down Parade Street, there's a big dumpster sitting over, blocking the sidewalk. Now, we're gonna get a complaint from the Voices of Independence. And that was brought up too. You wanna lay a dumpster out on, you know, private property is one thing, but if you wanna put it on the street, you know, we should be getting money out of that. You agree, Liz, or? You know, if,
Well, I think what it should be is not like we're trying to extract money from
No, but
businesses,
it's-
it should be that.
keeping things in
whatever
order.
it costs to be able to go and, see what the actual size of the easement is, and then the liability, that's what it is.
Yeah,
It's not like squeezing somebody, it's the fact that there might be city work involved in, and we should be able to document how much it costs.
And some of these dumpsters stay there for a whole year. And the neighbors gotta put up with that. We got no control, because we don't know where they are. But that's why we have code enforcement. But, you know, maybe there's only 30 downtown, there's gonna be more, though.
And it's
This
not just
grows.
restaurants, aren't there other easements? How many easements have we approved this year on?
A lot of them are like signage, that would be one-time ones. You know, but the ones that are gonna use the street, the sidewalk,
But who determines what the easement is, what city, you know, I mean, it's just the logical way of thinking that city.
engineering
finance-
usually does the easements, you know, as far as, and there's a cost to send our guys out there, you know. If we can't charge $100 on businesses, then we gotta do something else.
So I think, but still, we're talking about stuff that really
Yeah.
is not going to,
You know,
to affect
This budget,
this 11 million right now. I'm not saying
Well,
during the year, but that money is probably end up going towards,
I don't know
Following
where,
you.
I don't know where we can get more money this year that'll be that quick. I just don't know, you know? Do you see it?
GoFundMe.
Don't laugh, that might come to that. It might come to
There
that.
might be people in California, Wyoming, Montana who love Erie and are living high and just want to give back to Erie.
Here's what,
They're gonna give back to Erie only if we have a tighter belt. Why would would anybody give money to have it go down into your famous analogy?
What's that,
I don't wanna say it,
you know,
black hole.
here's what I did here, I can't remember where I heard it, but it bears fruit that somebody that was in the nonprofit sector was explaining why, it might have been to the guy in the morning talk show on radio, I think I might have picked it up on the internet, but he explained that it would be hard for, like an alcoholic reform group to give a lot of money. You know, they're doing good work. But he said, no one has ever asked me to contribute.
Exactly.
He said, I would give $200. Now, I know we sit here and we go, $200? But just think if every nonprofit was asked to make a contribution,
Was that on our list?
I agree. I
we
think
never asked them.
the mayoral administration could say, we are in serious times. And it could be
Our
called
city
the Give Back
services
to
are
Erie campaign.
increasing.
I mean,
And if the Give Back to Erie campaign goes into the capital fund, who knows? Maybe it'll generate a couple $1 million.
We got the Sisters of Mercy, I believe it is.
13,500.
How much?
13,500.
Think of that. Every year, they don't even get coerced. No arm twisting, right? And they give, and they give it willingly. And I think we're past the days where we can't
I know
ask.
that is. And it's been inconsistent, a low of like 167,000 and a high of like maybe 420,000. The 420,000 was probably a year when Gannon gave 200,000 because they missed a year. But hang on a second, I'll
To
try
quote
find
my
that.
colleague on council, we gave things away over the years too much. When they want something that's a little different, we should ask them for some little help. We're giving them something that's, we don't have to give them. It's not blackmail. It's just saying, hey, you know what? We're in need. What, you know,
Can I speak for one
Yeah.
second? The new assessment came out last week, for all the properties in Erie. And so I'll post this on SharePoint so everybody can see it. There are quite a few, there's 2,000 tax exempt properties in Erie. If you took the value of their land and the value of what they would pay in tax and divide it by 2 and get the pilot of those, there's a handout this year that shows $7.9 million, okay? We took out, now, remembering the governmental agencies
can't pay taxes.
don't pay taxes, don't pay pilots, and that would be, I think Lisa used the best term the other day, you're just trading money with each other. I mean, if we told the school district, I printed the school district's list, they have 32 properties, assessed value is $1 billion, taxable value, their pilot would be $838,000, 838,315. So we can't get, the school district isn't gonna give us money, because the city of Erie on here, with the 204 properties we own, would be paying a pilot of $212,000. So, in the Port Authority, because they're a state agency, and Erie County, and the Housing Authority, and all of those, you take their pilots out of that 7.9 million, and you get 3.5. Take it out of there. So, I'll post this on SharePoint.
That's still
Yeah.
not a bad amount of money.
No, so you're left with $4 million.
We'll make a copy.
But out of that 4 million, we are getting $900,000 in pilots. Gannon's not a pilot, but Gannon gives us a donation every year. Hammond has a pilot. The convention center, what do you call it? The hotels down there are third on the list. Yeah, came out of our book.
Right, I did the math though to show you how it's
So
varied.
the convention center out of the book, we went to court, didn't we, and lost that.
Where?
So-
At the hotel?
The hotel.
I didn't think we sued
Because,
them, did we?
because of that bond issue ruling with the city of Philadelphia.
Did we
Now you
actually
got
go to court?
Merciers. Merciers entered into an agreement with us last year. St. Vincent's. Now, number 6 on the list is the diocese. If they were to pay us a pilot on all the churches they own, it'd be $238,000. Lecom, Barber Center, St. Mary's Home, in a pilot. Sarah Reed Home, in a pilot. Stairways. What you're hearing, and I don't want to be the judge and jury on pilots, but, I mean, do we want to ask, and I guess we could, I'm not saying, you know, stairways, the Village at Luther Square, the YMCA, Hands, Mercier's Prep School, Erie Day School, Elmwood Presbyterian Church, Conrail, Erie Cemetery. I mean, I don't know what to do with that, but there's 10 pages of these groups that are, and it adds up to $4.5 million, but there's, I don't know, how many pages, Lee, 7 or 8? 7 or 8 pages of all these pilots, it'd be like $10,000 or
Now,
$15,000.
remember this, Paul,
Every little bit helps.
at the EMTA, all right?
Well,
When they rent out that one portion of their building,
yeah,
that should be taxed.
yes, it should.
But we gotta, are you sure we went after the hotels?
Yes, we did, and because of the ruling in Philadelphia, that those hotels in Philadelphia, and that was the state, because they were paid by bonds, which were issued by the state, those things became tax exempt, and that's the same ruling,
What I would
if I'm
especially-
not mistaken, that happened down there.
In the past, we did
So-
not piggyback onto lawsuits
Well,
with the school district, and we should seriously consider challenges.
We're cooperating.
We weren't in the past, so I'm glad we are now.
Is not paying.
yeah, I mean, but Sonia, you're not well, it's couple $1 million, yes, it is, but these are small, I mean, like, St. Paul's Church and the Boys Club. I mean, we're not gonna hit the
No,
board.
no, I'm not talking
Emmanuel
about that.
Presbyterian Church. And this is, I mean, these are
But
Bethel Baptist,
my
Bayfront
thing here-
Hills.
But ask
City
for
Mission.
contributions.
St. Vincent, Henry.
They're giving us money already.
Not enough.
Yeah.
Well, okay,
Not enough.
and I'm not in disagreement with you.
Not enough.
I'm not in
They make too
disagreement
much
with
money.
you.
They charge me $8 a pill if I go to the hospital.
But
There you
there is a legal document, pilot agreement for those, you know, next time they're up,
We
could they
need-
be renegotiated? Absolutely, anything can be, when the contract
And
is
we
up.
look at it like this, Paul, they're expanding, so they finna make even more money.
Yes, oh, but the good of them expanding is, they're gonna have more people working there, and those people are gonna pay income tax. Well, I'm just saying to you, Cass.
listen, we're
the
not
more
going down that
people-
road again.
No, but the more people that start working in the city,
I hope they have a better track record than our city hall here.
with what?
Percentage of people that actually live in the city. All these jobs we create, they seem to disappear to south of
Okay,
Grandview.
so we're gonna post this on SharePoint. I mean, it's something I
Tired of
get
hearing
from
that, aren't
Sue. This is public record, so it's not, everybody can take a look at it, and we can move on from there. But as there are no pilots with these places, and there's no written agreements with these places,
They just give you,
some of them just give us, to put something in the budget is no different than it was done the year before I got here,
but do they?
where they just put $1 million in the budget for suburban fees, and we can't put fake revenues in like that. It's bad for everybody.
So do they give you money every year?
Yes, they do. Those, on that list, those are legal documents, written agreements. And Gannon has been giving us money, and what Liz was talking about, Gannon
Give him
got
a house?
a year,
That was proposed.
year behind, and they gave us 200,000 one year as opposed to another. So can that be looked at? Yes. But my suggestion,
Okay.
as the budget's been handed to you, and it's in your hands right now, my suggestion is to not put in fake revenues, or something that, hey,
What-
maybe this could
okay.
happen.
No.
Kaz, you lived it. In 2005, that budget had $1 million of suburban,
Yeah.
what was it called, suburban niceness fee or whatever?
I'm only-
That we were
Yes.
supposed to call Gerard and ask them to give us $50,000 because we were short in our budget, and we were supposed to call Mill Creek. That was bad.
Paul, the only thing I'm proposing, that whatever we raise today, we already have on the books. We got the,
Okay, good.
we got the amusement
Okay.
tax. We're looking at easement fees.
Yeah,
That's gonna
I
be,
just wanna be.
that's gonna be for next year.
Because you lived that, and so did I.
But
The budget I was handed, well, Ron was handed, because he was still working then.
Yeah.
In 2006,
Yeah, I'm not plugging that number
budget
in.
had $1 million of plug numbers that were absolutely never.
Non-realistic.
Never gonna happen.
No, I'm saying, we're saying to the administration now, we want you to go out there and start asking for money. We want you to send letters out.
Fred tried that. In all those years of Fred doing that, the only group he got.
Look, I know Fred too. I don't know how good he did it or he didn't do it.
The only group he got that would move from the, I'll give you some money, to the, I will sign a pilot contract was Church of the Covenant. Yeah, it's easy for any of these, are the Greens or the Blues, Lisa? I don't know.
Let's just ask them.
The
All we can do
Blues.
is say
The
no.
Blue, anybody, as you're gonna see this, the Blues can not give us the money at any time. Even the 7,000 from PrEP, they've promised us, and they've given it to us every year.
I wonder why
but-
though.
Well, because council put the hammer to them, but if they don't wanna give us the money, there's nothing we're gonna do
You
about
talking about
it.
this right foot?
Yeah,
Why we
That
can't
one-
do nothing about it?
because they won't sign a pilot, they will not sign a written agreement. They'll give us the money,
That's not right.
and
That's not right.
and they're nice about it, and they'll do it, as Gannon and Merciers.
It's
and-
not blackmail, but next time they come for something that's
But they
not
gotta
necessary.
understand, okay, public
squeeze 'em.
safety, when they having these events and doing these things, when something happen, who they calling? The city.
Us, yes.
So,
Sonia, you're 1,000,000% right. See, I got that million from the million fake revenue to the 1,000,000% right.
Well, I remember the fake revenue, yeah.
now, if the city say, okay, y'all don't wanna pay us, we ain't coming, what you think the problem gonna be? What's
Oh, we
gonna
have to
happen?
go.
I know we have
Yeah,
to go,
see,
but
that's
I'm
the
just
bad
saying,
thing.
they need to think logically.
That's why
Okay,
we're
you
gonna-
scratch our back, we scratch
Yes.
yours.
Sonny, that's why we're gonna have the false alarm fee. Every time we get a popcorn fire, that'll end that stuff. Okay, where do we
Can
want
I
to
just,
go next?
I did have a question, though, since I was busy making copies. What did you, can we have an explanation as to why it was $430,000 in 2015 and $197,000 in 2018 for Fund 015 Capital Improvements Equipment? This is what I passed out to you. I mean, you'll see that it's varied over the years. That was, the 430,000 is when Gannon gave 200,000.
That's when the money showed up.
Okay, but still, take 100,000 off, and it's 330,000 versus 197,000 this year in contributions. This is just,
Listen, do me a favor, take that 100 out of the first year and add it into the second year, because they gave us a check for 2 years at once. And then there's another name, 2 from the bottom of the first year, read that off and take that out.
I am just asking why this is so erratic. 197,000 versus 271,000 the previous year.
It's the way the money shows up.
Well, shouldn't that be,
That's our,
why is it not,
Not everything's in here either. Mercyhurst, we have an agreement with Mercyhurst. They gave us, I think it was 30,000 in cash and in-kinds, and then additional in-kind services, if I remember correctly.
20,000 for the fireworks. This is just the money that goes, that group has specifically said goes to capital improvements.
so where's the other list then? Where's the 30,000 on a list in our budget?
That goes to the general fund.
So there's no list that says Mercyhurst gave $30,000, am I right?
Not in your hand, no.
Well, obviously not in my hand here, but is there a list in our workbook that shows these other
Not in your workbook.
supposed contributions?
No, that's not a supposed that happened.
Well, then why don't we know that? I think that Mercyhurst might want to contribute to the fireworks at City Council next time, the next time I get those kind of answers.
It may have been our fault. We negotiated directly with Mercyhurst through the mayor's office and the city.
Okay, so Mercyhurst is giving 30,000 and Gannon's giving basically about 100,000?
Yeah.
It's 100,000.
but the
So-
problem is 30,000 went up in the sky and blew up. And the
There were
other,
also in-kind services.
and the 100,000 is at least we can use it for something tangible. I like that word tangible.
Help with marketing, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. It was the MOU, the city solicitor's office.
You don't like
drew up the
30,000
MOU.
going up in smoke, do you? That's all lost money, that's just.
It was a
It's
community
great for the
event.
people coming in from out of the suburbs, demanding we have a
It may go
Fourth of
up
July.
in smoke, and I agree with you, but I also hear that people that live in the city,
Yeah.
when we didn't have it, they were upset.
Yes, very.
They
Not
were
when they heard the
upset.
price tag, though.
They don't care about
And
the
they
price
came in
tag.
and they bought
That
them.
is something that our
It's because
citizens
of traditions
enjoy.
gone by, and people are a people of tradition.
We've always done
Yeah,
it
and
that
that's
way.
something for the families to do, you know, as a family, something to do as a family. So I think that's why a lot of people like to do that, because you got families coming up from out of town visiting. Hey, let's go see the fireworks. So, hey.
Well, it's nice, but I need tangible money for city.
But that brings people downtown, and they spend money in businesses that they wouldn't normally do. Like last night, that was a cooperation between several different organizations. There were a lot of people who posted on Facebook. I came down last night, I never would have done that had you not had that event. I came down, we went out to eat, we bought something at Pop Luck, then we went to Ember and Forge and got coffee. All that supports our local businesses, that also supports our economy. All of those things that we're trying to do is part of community development, which will help our economic development.
You forget, for 20 years, I worked the parking ramp, so I know where people eat and don't eat. I can tell you at the hockey games how many people will eat and don't eat. I
There were a
watch
lot
it.
of people last night.
No, you'd be surprised how many don't, how many in and out too.
Going on, man.
So, I mean, you know, we're not like we're Cleveland, Ohio, but we get a little bump, okay? But, you know, we have to get people moving back in the city.
Okay, let's get back on
Yep,
point.
okay, what do we
We're
wanna-
here for lunch.
Yeah, well, we got some other business, so. Where do you wanna go? What do you, anybody got any suggestions?
And we need to find out where some money comes.
Chuck and Jenny's is good.
No, I mean,
Oh, I thought you were talking about mine.
no,
Hey, that $6,000 you giving back, you gonna pay for it? Chuck and Jenny's?
That sound like Mario. That's what Mario
where do
did.
we wanna go next? I mean,
I only get $44 every 2 weeks.
I just wanna hear, okay, that's a good idea, let's start there. We need somewhere to start. We don't have nowhere to really start. Cause our
Know
finance
this, that-
director, who we love, is saying, oh,
no,
we
no,
can't do
this
that.
is, on the other side of the ledger, after we do any cuts or additions.
I know.
Officially for the budget, unless we know that this is going to happen,
But there are three things we're looking at, even regardless of what we put in place. We got the bond issue, we got the income tax. We didn't talk about real estate, but that's there, and the fees. You know, so it's gonna be, I mean, that's the bulk of the problem right there. Where do we get the most money? So what's the tolerance level gonna be?
And we-
Like,
Yeah.
how much is the bond issue gonna bring in?
well,
It's projected at what,
$4.5 million of debt service relief in the budget.
so that leaves us with about seven.
And that's already been budgeted.
Yeah, that's what I mean, but I mean,
Yeah, so if that
just so there's
doesn't
a reality here
happen,
that,
if that doesn't happen, then there is $11 million we need to make up.
right, so
I'm
then we
not-
take the four out, we're at seven now.
Yeah,
So if, I mean, what I'm looking at is, if we all don't like the income tax, and we have to find it somewhere, okay?
Jimmy's proposal was $2 million out of fund
Well, that's what I'm
balance.
saying, we have to look at, do we kind of agree that we're gonna do the bond?
Because that gives us our paving
So,
program for the next
okay,
4
so,
years.
you know, start doing the numbers now, okay? So we know that, okay, now we're left with 7 million, right?
No, but what Jimmy wants to
Yeah.
do is not raise the rates.
No, no,
in
I
sewer
agree, okay.
refuse, so there's still no change here.
But I mean, okay,
But with the earned income tax, yes, we gotta raise that, but hopefully not to 1.75.
So you gotta come
So
up
we have to find the revenue somewhere else.
you got either expenses or,
Expenses cut,
Or
or
just raise,
alternate revenue.
or just raise one, the garbage and.
No, I'm
or-
already saying don't
or
do that.
the sewer.
Oh, and take a
One.
$1 million transfer and then soften,
Instead of hitting them with both,
Right.
hitting. we can-
One is better than both.
Cause
what do you think, Mel?
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, one is better.
One or the other?
One or the other.
So we aren't doing the options of what if you cut 1%, 2%?
No, that's still on the
3%?
board.
That's still on the board.
But I'm saying, the reality is, if we don't do these other things, we have to face the issue of where are we going with what are we gonna tax on too?
Right.
You know,
I'm still not voting for it.
Okay,
just
well,
so you
that's
know.
your-
You don't have my vote for it unless there's a
Okay.
pay freeze, so.
But I mean-
All good ideas from Jim, from Kaz, I really appreciate your ideas, but I'm still not voting.
But I mean, even if we cut, we still got a reality that we're not gonna be able to cut 7 million.
Right, no,
So-
I agree, Kaz, yes,
So,
yes,
I mean,
that's
somewhere
fine.
we gotta figure out,
Yes.
what's our,
Sit down and
well,
vote.
we already know the bond, we kinda agree on that. I mean, I'm not a bond fan,
I'm not either.
and going forward, I don't wanna see it again, I wanna see us actually, levy a tax for roads.
Are you working on a plan to make sure that that doesn't happen in the future?
Well, we're gonna have to get together with the mayor's office and you
So-
at the beginning of the year
So
and
the
tell us
bond
what,
the bond unfortunately is happening.
yes.
Okay, so if we don't, and we have a balanced budget. So if Jimmy's proposing a 1 or 2 or 3% cut, I guess to give us our marching orders, so Monday, we can go back upstairs and try to figure out where do you
Try to
want.
give us different options.
Yeah.
Well, I don't understand what the options are.
No
Okay.
traveling for a while.
No, his option is, what happens if you do a 1% cost? It's your job to find the answers for the options that he has requested, right, Jim?
Well,
Yeah.
that's what I'm,
Yeah, if.
also different numbers, different
Yeah.
columns, and how it affects increases, how it affects,
Yeah,
In other words, if we go 1, 2, or 3, like he wants, okay, like Jim wants, what's the effect? And, correct?
Yeah.
Like across the board, 1, 2, or 3.
On what accounts?
Well, if you did it,
The-
and there
The
again,
general fund, right?
across the.
Yeah.
Just say
Yeah.
1% across the
Yeah.
board, which you said $800,000, which
Yeah.
I'm not sure if there's even
Yeah.
800,000 in there to really cut, I get all that. But just say that is implemented, and there's 800,000 there, and then, you take 2 mil out of the, reserves, so there's 2.8 million.
Well, just put it
We
like
raised the, earned income tax instead of 1.75 to 1.50, we got another 2 or 3 million there. Now, that's, I guess,
So should I cut 3% off every line item?
That's up to you.
I'm guessing.
Well, Paul, just put it like this. If you had to, no ifs, ands, or buts, make cuts, where would you do it? If you had to.
That's right. Sonia has it right.
That's point
Well, I
blank.
can't cut personnel and benefits.
Okay.
Okay, so now we're down to the $6 million.
So there's no possible, I mean, I'm not recommending it, but you're saying that I think that we need to have the option, if you're talking about 1, 2, or 3% across the board, then there would possibly be layoffs. I'm not saying that that's what we advocate, but it's your job to be able to say,
My job is to say there's no layoff. You can't lay anybody off.
So
wait a minute,
where would you find-
you're the arbiter of HR?
No, in preparing this budget, I am the arbiter of preparing the budget and saying there's no layoffs. As Cass taught me years ago, once it's handed to council, layoffs would come from you, not me. So 3% of $80 million is 2.4, 1.6 is 2%, 1% is 800,000. There's no way in the world we could cut 800,000 out of the $6 million of disposable spending, because as I went through, we have fuel costs, and we have electric costs, and we have these costs. I mean, if you were to tell me, I mean, I'm gonna lose my firstborn Claire if I don't find $800,000, I don't know that,
you'd find it.
I don't think I could.
I-
There's no way I could.
So did we just waste all this time? Because we're not going to get any answers from finance. Am I hearing that correctly? Because I think a couple of weeks ago you told me I hadn't heard correctly, so I want to make sure I'm hearing correctly. We are asking you to give us options on how you would cut 1, 2, or 3%, but you aren't going to be able to do it, right? Right? Right?
How about 2%? Instead of freezing the wages, what about a 2% wage in management?
That is not going to get you millions. It's going to get less. But I'm sorry. I'm just doing the math in my head.
We prepared a budget that's workable with all the departments. The departments told us what they need. We cut, again, 108 accounts from last year. You look through this book, maybe give me a little guidance other than just say cut 3%.
What do you want to go? Tax, I mean, which
You
way
know.
you want to go with taxes? You mean one or the other? How about the income tax? You like that, or?
No.
You don't? Well, if we don't do income
Well,
tax,
understand, there's things that we like and don't like, and there's things that we have to do.
it's either gonna be income tax or real estate, that's,
Kaz, are you gonna ask your professor to come on Monday night?
I could, but I don't know if he'll be
What
here.
is more
I don't need.
revenue generated if we raise the sewer or we raise the garbage? One or the other, what is the better option?
You know, Kaz asked me the other day about getting rid of both of them, and we did some math on getting rid of both of those. And I said, we're gonna lose the transfers, that's gonna cause an increase in income taxes. Unless, of course, you wanna take that money out of the fund balance. But right now, the amount of money we're gonna get in increase from the sewer is more than the amount of money we're gonna get in the increase of the refuse.
Okay. So, suggest the sewer increase.
The thing with the sewer and refuse increases is that they also affect businesses, nonprofits. They also have to pay those increases. That was our way of trying to spread it out. We stayed away from property tax increase because we didn't want to affect those widows and retirees and people who have
We
fixed
appreciate
incomes.
that.
That's why we stayed away from the property tax and went with the earned income tax, so that it was only on those people who are actually earning an income that live in the city of Erie. It's not ideal. We don't want to have to do it. We know there are people working 3 jobs just to make ends meet. But just so you know, I mean, that's why we stayed away from the property tax increase.
But it's hard for people to swallow. It would be for me if I was working.
Oh, I mean.
I mean, I'm looking out there and I'm seeing, oh, look at, these guys all live on Mill Creek or something. They're not paying. And you're giving me a penalty for having the guts to live in the city. That's hard to swallow, okay? I mean, look, there's no easy solution, but, I mean,
That was our only option.
I just want to suggest, you don't know if your professor can come.
No.
But I have been talking to some of the people who served on the original Mayor's Advisory Group, asking if they have any ideas. I haven't heard back from them yet, but I would suggest if somebody has some experts or some expertise, that maybe we invite them to one of the final work sessions.
I think going forward, we're gonna have to do this because, I mean, I'm trying to keep the 90-some thousand that are here in the city now. I watched, in my lifetime, 40,000 people leave. They didn't leave. They're enjoying the good life over the border.
When do we have a budget session? I can't be here Tuesday night.
I think it's Monday, isn't it?
Budget sessions.
Liz, this,
You're scheduled to have budget sessions every night, as far as I know, for the
Monday's
next
one,
3
right?
weeks. Yeah.
Unless Paul disagrees, I think your only option for finding expenses
I
to
think
cut
Sun-
is
you
if
get
you meet
Sundays
with
off.
each department head again and ask them specifically what's in each line item and what they can cut.
That shouldn't be our job. I don't think
Well, how
that
is-
should be our job. I mean,
Well-
I do not
You don't
think
wanna
that
do
should
that,
be
do you?
our job to meet with department heads. Communicate to them, why is that our job? To go meet with department heads?
You're asking Paul what can be cut. I mean, each department head,
We've already heard
but
department heads.
he
come
met
here
with them.
and bitch and moan about the pay freeze, and no, they had an opportunity, they know that we aren't happy with this budget. None of them came prepared to say, you know what, I'm gonna go back and look at my budget. We've already had that. I am
Because-
not gonna spend time next week going to talk to department heads.
We've already been through several iterations of that. That's why. We've already asked them to cut. They've cut personnel, they've cut expenses.
Who other than Department of Economic Development and your office?
Police did, but we cut 108 line items, $220,000, plus $600,000 in salaries and benefits.
Does anybody have an appetite for bringing some experts to the table next week?
you bring what?
Bringing some experts to the table next week?
What is the experts gonna do? Liz?
I think they're gonna tell us that, never mind.
No, my question is, they may be expert in what they do have they been at the table and hearing all the discussion?
They were here in 2005 when they gave a huge warning about
2005,
the
this is
financial cliff we were gonna
2018.
fall out.
When is our latest venture coming? The one that we signed up for, the intervention? Is that,
They're just looking at the RFPs right now. That's not gonna affect anything until, mid to late 2019. So it's not gonna affect the 2019.
I think what we can do, Liz, we're up against the wall right now. But I think, like I said, we could form one, before the intervention goes. Let them look at some stuff around there and meet with council. And,
I'm just saying, if we do this without any public input, we're already gonna get criticized about caving on the pay freeze, okay? And if we do this with no changes, then
I'm not caving, but
There's gonna be change.
Well, did you ever think, like, management, union need to work together, and if we freeze management, then the whole dynamics of everything comes into play. And you want to come to work not with a monkey on your back. You want to be able to work at the best of your ability. And if we pay freeze, the whole dynamics of everything, it's going to be a crisis in the entire city hall proper.
if we freeze wages, we may have some people who decide they're ready to retire, and we can look for new talent.
That's called force out.
And I already talked, at the other meeting about doing some kind of package, if we can
Yes.
go back and look into doing a package, deal for.
I've never done
ready
it.
every time.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, I'm against freezing pay, so that's off the
Okay.
table for me, period, so.
Same here.
Well,
So we gotta come up with other ways.
what do you want to do, wait till Monday, or you want to keep going, or?
No, we also have a council issue we have to, appointment we have to address.
Yes.
You want to go there now then, or?
I would say, yeah. I think we,
Just when you come Monday, be ready for where we're going to get the money
So
from.
Paul, I guess for your
Bring your
homework,
checkbook.
you just
Talk to everybody
talk
again and see,
and see if.
but it's not gonna be $800,000.
Well, whatever,
It's
just
not
let us see what you
$800,000.
can do.
Humor us.
But, like, even like the chief and stuff, they.
Yeah, say, can you
we-
cut
yeah,
5,000?
They're gonna keep, they're
Yeah.
gonna
Remember what
let you
Truman
keep your
said.
raises. Just put it to them like this. You got some council members said they'll let you keep your raises, can you shave off some more somewhere?
I think it was Truman, a nickel here, a nickel there, pretty soon we're talking big money.
But Renee, couldn't the mayor, do a give back campaign? Just
Hey, Paul.
say, this is serious. And
Did you do the
I
lease payment?
understand how hard work, like you had mentioned.
does that mean?
People have 3 jobs.
Paul wants to give us $1 million.
The school district taxes are going up. Erie County approved a tax hike. And I don't want people to pay more taxes, and I don't want people to leave. But there are a lot of people that may want to help us.
They will not help us if they don't see that we can control the purse strings. Why would you be a business person who says, yeah, I'm gonna donate to the city of Erie, in one pocket, out the other? Not gonna
We
happen.
got a lot of real estate taxes out there that's not being collected. We need to go after those people. We get a lot more money coming into the city.
I would just say, we've worked on cutting costs this year. We're in this situation for other reasons, not related to increasing costs. But yes, we can definitely ask people. It's nothing that's going to resolve things within the next couple weeks, though. That's the issue. We can't bank on that we're going to get X amount in donations for this particular budget.
That's where we got in
1.2
trouble.
million.
That's where we got in trouble.
Well, that budget part is all.
Are we gonna do this in the back room, this council thing?
Thank you.
What do you put?
Thank you.
3.6. What? Yes, it does.
He should be ecstatic. He got to sit next to me.
Hydrocodone vote. Government, somebody better be in the tell me which way to go. Waste your day. Waste your day.
Oh, that